Nothing prepares parents for the first 3 months with twins. The exhaustion feels heavier, the silence feels rare, and every hour seems to blur into the next. One crying baby can already test the limits of patience. But 2 crying babies at the exact same moment can make even the strongest parents question how they will survive another night. Behind every smiling family photo, there are hidden moments of fear, tears, confusion, and overwhelming love. Parents of twins quickly discover that survival becomes more important than perfection. These first 90 days are not simply difficult because of sleepless nights, but because they transform every part of life at once. Yet, inside the chaos, many parents also discover strength they never knew existed, creating emotional memories that stay with them forever. The first 3 months with twins can feel like an emotional storm that never fully settles. Every feeding, every diaper change, every sleepless night, and every unexpected challenge pushes parents into unfamiliar territory where survival often becomes the only goal. While social media frequently shows peaceful sleeping babies and smiling parents, the reality for many families is much more intense, emotional, and exhausting. In this video, we are going to explore the most difficult moments parents of twins face during those first 90 days, sharing real-life emotional situations that deeply resonate with families everywhere. If you are currently living through this stage, or if you remember these difficult months from your own experience, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments because your story may help another exhausted parent feel less alone. The first night at home with twins often feels completely different from what parents imagined during pregnancy. The hospital may have been stressful, but there were nurses, doctors, and routines creating some level of support. Suddenly, parents arrive home carrying 2 tiny lives into a quiet house that immediately feels overwhelming. Every sound becomes alarming. Every silence feels suspicious, and every decision seems filled with uncertainty. Simple tasks that once required little thought now feel impossible under exhaustion. Parents quickly realize that caring for twins is not simply double the work because the emotional pressure multiplies with every responsibility. That first night often becomes the moment where excitement collides with reality, creating fear, vulnerability, and emotional shock. Sleep deprivation becomes one of the most brutal realities during the first 3 months with twins. Many parents imagine they will lose sleep after having babies, but few understand the psychological impact of waking up constantly without meaningful rest. Just as one baby finally falls asleep, the other wakes crying for food, comfort, or attention. Nights stop feeling like nights and instead become endless cycles of feeding, burping, changing diapers, and desperately trying to close exhausted eyes for a few minutes. Parents begin forgetting conversations, losing track of time, and feeling emotionally fragile. The exhaustion becomes so deep that even simple decisions can trigger frustration, tears, or hopelessness that feels impossible to explain to others. One of the hardest emotional moments happens when both babies cry at the same time and parents cannot immediately comfort both children. This situation creates overwhelming guilt because no matter which baby receives attention first, the other continues crying. Parents feel torn emotionally, physically, and mentally while trying to move faster than exhaustion allows. The sound of 2 crying infants echoing through the house during the middle of the night can create panic. Unlike anything parents experienced before, many mothers and fathers silently wonder whether they are failing their children simply because they cannot divide themselves into 2 people. These moments often become emotionally painful memories that remain deeply connected to feelings of helplessness and pressure. Feeding twins during the first 3 months becomes another exhausting challenge that many parents underestimate before birth, whether breastfeeding, bottle feeding, or combining both methods. Feeding to newborns requires enormous physical and emotional energy every few hours without interruption. Mothers often feel intense pressure to produce enough milk for both babies while simultaneously recovering physically from childbirth. Fathers frequently struggle with feelings of helplessness while trying to support everyone in the house. Feeding sessions can last so long that they seem to blend into each other endlessly. Parents sometimes realize that by the time one feeding cycle ends, another one is already beginning, creating emotional fatigue that slowly consumes every part of daily life. Many parents of twins experience a painful sense of isolation during the first 3 months. Friends without children often cannot fully understand the level of exhaustion involved, while parents with one child may unintentionally minimize the experience by comparing it to their own journeys. Invitations disappear, social activities stop, and even short conversations feel difficult because parents are constantly interrupted by crying, feeding schedules, or overwhelming fatigue. Days become repetitive and emotionally heavy, especially during long nights when the outside world feels completely silent. Parents sometimes begin feeling disconnected not only from friends and family, but also from their own identity. The isolation slowly grows stronger as survival routines replace normal life and emotional balance becomes harder to maintain. Relationships between parents are also deeply tested during these first difficult months. Stress, exhaustion, hormonal changes, financial pressure, and emotional overload create tension inside even the strongest partnerships. Small disagreements about feeding schedules, sleeping arrangements, or household responsibilities can suddenly turn into emotional arguments fueled by fatigue. Many couples feel guilty because they stop acting like romantic partners and instead become exhausted teammates trying to survive each day. Physical affection becomes rare, patience disappears quickly, and misunderstandings happen more frequently than ever before. Parents often look at each other with frustration while secretly knowing both are equally overwhelmed. These emotional strains create painful moments that many families never openly discuss despite experiencing them privately. The emotional breakdowns that happen unexpectedly during the first 3 months often shock parents because they can happen over seemingly small situations. A spilled bottle, a crying fit, an unfinished meal, or even a simple question from another person can suddenly trigger tears and emotional collapse. Parents who once considered themselves emotionally strong may find themselves crying in kitchens, bathrooms, or dark bedrooms without fully understanding why. The constant pressure of caring for 2 newborns while functioning on almost no sleep slowly weakens emotional resilience. Many parents feel embarrassed by these breakdowns and try hiding them from others. Yet these moments are extremely common because the emotional weight of raising twins becomes heavier with every sleepless night. Another painful challenge comes from constantly comparing the twins to each other. Even loving parents sometimes become anxious when one baby sleeps better, eats more, gains weight faster, or seems calmer than the other. Every difference can create hidden fears that something may be wrong. Parents begin studying feeding patterns, sleeping habits, and emotional responses with exhausting intensity. The pressure becomes even stronger during pediatric appointments, where growth charts and developmental milestones suddenly feel emotionally overwhelming. Instead of simply enjoying small moments, many parents spend hours worrying whether both babies are progressing equally. This constant comparison creates emotional tension because parents desperately want both children to thrive while fearing they may unintentionally overlook important differences. Financial stress becomes another heavy emotional burden during the first month with twins. Diapers disappear faster than parents imagined possible. Formula becomes expensive, medical appointments multiply, and household expenses rise suddenly without warning. Many families feel intense pressure while trying to balance work responsibilities with the demands of caring for 2 newborns. Parents often begin calculating costs constantly, worrying about future expenses while already feeling overwhelmed by present responsibilities. Even families that prepared financially before birth may feel shocked by how quickly resources disappear. The stress becomes emotionally exhausting because parents desperately want to provide comfort and security while privately worrying about money almost every day. Financial anxiety quietly intensifies the emotional challenges already surrounding the family. Visitors can unexpectedly become another source of stress during the first 3 months. Family members and friends often arrive excited to meet the twins, but exhausted parents may secretly feel overwhelmed by constant interruptions, opinions, and expectations. Some visitors offer genuine support, while others unintentionally create more work by expecting conversation, hospitality, or emotional energy parents no longer possess. Mothers especially may feel pressure to appear happy and organized despite feeling physically exhausted and emotionally drained. Parents sometimes begin dreading phone calls or surprise visits because even short social interactions require energy they simply do not have. These moments create guilt because parents appreciate support while simultaneously craving privacy, silence, and opportunities to rest. The fear of making mistakes becomes emotionally overwhelming for many parents of twins. Every cough sounds dangerous, every unusual movement creates concern, and every online article introduces new anxieties. Parents often spend long nights searching symptoms on the internet while imagining worst-case scenarios. The pressure of caring for two fragile newborns creates constant fear because parents know that tiny lives depend entirely on them. Many mothers and fathers quietly question whether they are capable enough, patient enough, or strong enough for such enormous responsibility. These fears become even more intense during moments of exhaustion when parents feel emotionally vulnerable. Even experienced parents who already have children often admit that twins create a completely different level of emotional pressure and self-doubt. Leaving the house with twins during the first 3 months can feel like preparing for a military operation. Something as simple as a pediatric appointment requires diapers, bottles, extra clothes, blankets, wipes, car seats, and perfect timing. Parents often begin getting ready hours before leaving, only for one baby to suddenly cry, spit up, or need another diaper change moments before departure. The stress continues during car rides, where parents anxiously listen for every sound coming from the back seat. Public outings become emotionally exhausting because strangers constantly stare, ask questions, or offer opinions. Many parents eventually avoid leaving home altogether because the emotional energy required for simple trips feels almost impossible to manage. The constant lack of personal time slowly affects parents in ways they rarely expect before twins arrive. Activities that once brought comfort, relaxation, or identity suddenly disappear completely. Showers become rushed, meals are eaten quickly while standing, and hobbies feel like distant memories from another life. Many parents begin feeling invisible beneath the endless routines of caregiving. Mothers especially may struggle emotionally while adjusting to physical recovery, hormonal changes, and overwhelming responsibilities simultaneously. Fathers may silently suppress emotions while trying to remain strong providers and supportive partners. Both parents often miss the version of themselves that existed before exhaustion dominated daily life. This emotional loss of identity becomes one of the hidden struggles few people openly discuss. Nighttime anxiety becomes deeply connected to the experience of raising twins during the first 3 months. As evening approaches, many parents begin feeling nervous because they already know another exhausting night is coming. Darkness no longer represents rest but instead signals endless feeding cycles, crying, and interrupted sleep. Some parents feel their hearts race when both babies begin crying simultaneously during the middle of the night. Others become emotionally numb after weeks of chronic exhaustion. The fear of not getting enough sleep before another difficult day creates emotional tension long before bedtime arrives. Many parents silently dread nighttime while also knowing they have no choice but to continue moving forward despite overwhelming fatigue. Another heartbreaking reality appears when parents realize they cannot fully enjoy every precious moment because survival consumes so much emotional energy. Society constantly tells parents to cherish every second because babies grow quickly. Yet exhausted parents often feel guilty because they are simply trying to survive each day. During endless nights filled with crying and stress, it becomes difficult to appreciate small, beautiful moments fully. Parents may later look back at photographs and feel sadness because exhaustion blurred many memories. The pressure to feel grateful every second sometimes creates additional guilt, especially when parents secretly feel overwhelmed instead of joyful. This emotional conflict between love and exhaustion becomes one of the deepest struggles during the newborn stage. Many mothers experience overwhelming guilt during the first 3 months because they feel unable to give enough attention to both babies equally. If one baby needs extra feeding, comfort, or medical attention, mothers may feel they are emotionally neglecting the other child. This constant emotional division creates exhaustion that extends far beyond physical fatigue. Mothers often judge themselves harshly while trying to meet impossible expectations of perfection. Social media images of organized families and peaceful newborn routines can intensify feelings of failure. Even when mothers are doing everything possible under extreme circumstances, they may still feel inadequate. This emotional burden quietly grows heavier each day, especially when combined with hormonal recovery and chronic sleep deprivation. Fathers also experience emotional struggles during the first 3 months, although these challenges are often discussed less openly. Many fathers feel enormous pressure to remain calm, supportive, financially stable, and emotionally available while secretly feeling overwhelmed themselves. Watching a partner struggle physically and emotionally can create feelings of helplessness that become emotionally painful over time. Some fathers return to work while functioning on almost no sleep, carrying stress silently because they believe they must remain strong for the family. Others feel disconnected from the babies initially because survival routines leave little space for emotional bonding. These internal struggles can create loneliness and emotional exhaustion that many fathers hide behind silence and responsibility. The unpredictability of twins becomes emotionally exhausting because parents rarely feel fully prepared for each day. Some mornings begin peacefully before suddenly turning chaotic within minutes. One baby may finally develop a sleep routine just as the other becomes restless and difficult to comfort. Parents often feel emotionally trapped between hope and frustration because progress never seems completely stable. Every time routines appear manageable, new challenges emerge unexpectedly. This unpredictability prevents parents from relaxing mentally because they constantly anticipate the next crisis. Many families eventually begin living hour by hour instead of planning ahead because survival depends entirely on adapting quickly to changing emotional and physical demands. The physical recovery process after childbirth becomes especially difficult for mothers. Raising twins because healing happens while caring for 2 newborns simultaneously. Many mothers continue experiencing pain, discomfort, hormonal changes, and emotional vulnerability while sleeping only small fragments each night. Simple physical movements can feel exhausting, yet caregiving responsibilities never pause. Some mothers quietly ignore their own recovery needs because both babies require constant attention. Emotional pressure intensifies when mothers feel expected to recover quickly while also performing endless caregiving tasks. This combination of physical pain and emotional exhaustion can create feelings of invisibility because mothers often prioritize everyone else while silently neglecting their own well-being during the most demanding stage of early parenthood. One of the hardest emotional moments occurs when parents realize that advice from others often does not apply easily to twins. Suggestions like sleeping when the baby sleeps or taking turns resting may sound helpful in theory but become much harder in reality when caring for 2 newborns with different needs. Parents sometimes feel misunderstood when people simplify their struggles without recognizing the unique challenges twins create. This can lead to frustration, isolation, and emotional distance from friends or relatives who genuinely mean well. Many parents stop explaining their exhaustion because they feel others cannot truly understand the experience. The emotional loneliness created by feeling misunderstood becomes another invisible challenge during these exhausting months. The sound of silence itself can also become emotionally unsettling for parents of twins. After spending weeks surrounded by crying, feeding sounds, and constant activity, moments of quiet sometimes trigger anxiety instead of relief. Parents suddenly rush to check whether the babies are breathing normally or sleeping safely. Their nervous systems become so conditioned to stress and alertness that calm moments feel unfamiliar. Many parents describe lying awake even when the twins finally sleep because their minds remain hyperactive and emotionally tense. The body becomes physically exhausted while the brain refuses to fully relax. This constant state of emotional alertness slowly drains parents mentally, leaving them feeling permanently overwhelmed and emotionally fragile. Another difficult reality is the loss of spontaneity during the first 3 months before twins. Simple activities like grocery shopping, meeting friends, or leaving the house required little planning. After twins arrive, every activity becomes complicated by feeding schedules, diaper changes, naps, and emotional unpredictability. Parents often miss the freedom of making simple decisions without enormous preparation. This loss can create unexpected sadness because life suddenly revolves entirely around survival routines. Even enjoyable activities feel emotionally demanding because parents remain constantly alert and responsible. Many families quietly mourn the simplicity of their previous lives while simultaneously loving their children deeply, creating emotional contradictions that become difficult to explain to others. The first 3 months with twins are filled with moments that test the limits of human endurance, patience, and emotional strength. Parents often enter this stage believing they must remain perfect, organized, and endlessly grateful, only to discover that survival itself becomes an extraordinary achievement. Behind the exhaustion, tears, sleepless nights, and emotional breakdowns exists a powerful truth that many parents eventually understand. Love grows strongest during the hardest moments. Every difficult night, every overwhelming feeding, and every moment of doubt slowly builds resilience that transforms families forever. Parents of twins may feel broken during those first 90 days, but many later realize they were actually becoming stronger than they had ever been before.